Welcome, everyone, to our vodcast on the rise of the Strategic Chief People Officer. I'm Julie Catalano, Chief People Officer at Bespoke, and I'm thrilled to be a part of today's conversation. As CPOs, we have witnessed firsthand the evolution of our roles, from managing transactional processes to becoming strategic partners who shape the future of our organization. Today, I'm joined by some incredibly talented peers, Liz, Kirsten, and Jagdish. Welcome. Each of whom brings invaluable insight from their own experiences. So let's start today with introductions. Liz, would you start us off?
Of course, Julie. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here. So I'm Liz Rieveley, and I am Chief People Officer at MeridianLink. And MeridianLink is a cloud-based SaaS platform for financial institutions and lenders.
Great. Thank you. Kirsten?
I would also like to say thank you for being here. It's great to be amongst peers. My name is Kirsten Garrett. I'm the Chief Human Resources Officer at Confluence. We are a fintech who specializes in regulatory analytics and investor communications powered by data. And at the risk of dating myself, it's been close to 30 years in the industry. So great to be here with like-minded HR professionals. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And Jagdish.
Yeah, thank you, Julie, for having me too. It's great to be here with such accomplished colleagues. My name is Jagdish Chugani, and I have always worked in fast-growing tech companies, helping them get to their next milestone of success. Most recently, I led the people organization at Appfire, building their people-first talent strategy with better employee experiences reaching $225 million in ARR from just $25 million in less than 3 years. Prior to that, I was at PlanSource, where I helped scale global growth and contributed to a very successful exit. The bulk of my career, I worked at PE-owned and public companies, creating a culture of high performance with good people strategies.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, all of you, for being here. I'm really excited for this conversation. Today, I'd really like to delve into 3 strategic topics that really highlight the evolution of our role. Those are innovation, talent management, value creation, as well as stakeholder engagement and leadership influence. So, Liz, I think I'll start with you. In what ways have you innovated within your HR practices to adapt to the rapid changes in workforce and technology? And how have these innovations contributed to competitive advantage and operational efficiency?
Yeah, Julie, thanks for the question. It's a really good one, and I think really, really timely. I feel like I can't answer this question today without talking about AI, the biggest kind of topic going around for innovation. So I'm going to close with AI, but I'm going to give 2 other examples before I get to that. So my first example is our decision as a company to go 100% remote after the pandemic, and more so on the innovation side is sticking with that. So I didn't really think of it as innovative at the time, but the more that time goes on and we're seeing this trend of return to office and employees being tracked and all of those things, I think our decision to stick with it is what's innovative. It doesn't come without its challenges, but what we're really focusing on is our employees trusting us and their flexibility. So I think it is going to be a competitive advantage as we see the trend for return to office continue to increase. I was catching up with Gartner recently, and they were talking about a new emerging trend around resenteeism, and it's really connected to this kind of drive for return to office and tracking. So we're really focused on the trust and flexibility and everything that gives to our employees and gives to us, and really helping with our relationships with our employee base. So that's the first area of innovation. The second is tools, right? So making sure that we have innovative tools. In HR, we have so much data and so many tools. So it's making sure that you're partnering with the right vendors. We use Lattice for our employee engagement, our employee development, and they're constantly coming out with new features. And my advice is really just making sure that you raise your hand. We're constantly piloting, we're early adopters, and just making sure we're trying new things. They've got new AI tools, they're coming out with a new succession tool, and just all of our data for employees is in that tool and using it to get smarter. So our competitive advantage is really how we use the AI-driven pieces of that tool and all of the data to drive our metrics and our decisions and making sure we're making data-driven decisions. And then the last piece, again, AI. So I think we're using it in some traditional ways. So hopefully everybody's using it to help with kind of research on any topic, as well as outlines for communication plans, creating job descriptions. So I think those are some more of the traditional ways. And one thing we've done at our company, so HR is actually partnering with our IT department, and we are rolling out the AI companion co-pilot tool. And we've rolled it out across the company already. But what we're doing in HR is actually a proof of concept that's an actual specific HR use case where it's going to be able to go into our intranet, all of our documents, and answer employee questions. So we're really excited about the efficiency gains that we're going to get from this. So these are just some of the examples of innovation. I feel like I could talk about this forever, but those are some of the things that we're doing around innovation.
Excellent. Jagdish, Kirsten, is there anything that you wanted to add on this?
Well, I'm going to just piggyback on the fact that we're also going through Copilot and looking at all of its uses, its use cases. And I am actually going to borrow that now that I have heard that, Liz. So thank you very much.
Yes.
Yeah, that's excellent. I've actually found that having a strong culture of giving back brings tremendous productivity gains too. And you can do it in really good, innovative ways. At Appfire, we created a separate and a very transparent budget planning or budget pledging 1% of our profits, time as well as stock. Now, one of the buckets was allocated for employees to choose how they would like to help from their side in terms of their effort and time, with financial support coming from us as the company. I remember one of our teams pledging to clean a lake in their city over a few days, and we sponsored their trip and all equipment and supplies. I still hear so much goodwill and engagement about it.
That's excellent. Thank you. Great conversation. So I'm going to shift us now to the topics of talent management and value creation, which of course, as you all know, go hand in hand. So talent management is increasingly, and I will say finally, recognized as a critical lever for value creation, right? Especially as companies prepare for exits. So Jagdish, from your perspective, what strategies have been most effective in aligning talent management with business growth? And how do you measure the impact of these strategies?
You're right, Julie. I mean, I've seen CPOs being an integral part of the value creation plan for building a multi-generational, durable business. Particularly in tech companies, the biggest input to business outcomes is your people. So it's imperative that you get talent management right. In my view, as a CPO, your starting point has to be very clear, because that gives you significant advantage to meeting your outcomes and also do it with a sense of urgency. And that is understanding the business trajectory and focus areas, as well as the goals of the investment. Where will we fund more or defund? What makes the business work? What are we hearing from the customers about the product? What are our levers of growth? Where are we on the rule of 40? And what do we need to do to increase it? Now, this helps you build a strong HR function, and also allows you as the leader of the people team to understand the level of talent and leadership skills needed to win, as well as know its gaps. So think about it this way. You will be the one person on the leadership team who has the responsibility to assess skills across all functions. So you have to know what these skills are and why it's important to the business, so you can be an effective partner to both your CEO and your peers. Now, we all know you need an A team who work well with each other to get A+ results. This means you and the ELT need to know your A players, invest in their growth and learning, allow them to be compensated higher, and support them to build A teams around them. You have also to be always on the lookout for better talent and know how to upgrade it. Now, I have found the 9-block, or the 9-box as it's also called, as a great data-driven tool to assess talent and also help build succession plans that help prepare businesses for exit. The key advantage that 9-block does is it allows you to measure future potential, which is very important in companies experiencing growth or transformation. It allows you to see who all and how many are in the northeast corner and how many are on the path to get there. As a CPO, your role is not just on operationalizing the performance review process, but more importantly, raising the bar on performance, raising or improving the organizational KPIs, and connecting that performance to rewards and promotion cycles, and thus have people be force multipliers to that value creation plan. One more key talent strategy is to foster a culture of continuous learning and problem solving. Are you building leadership skills that will propel the company forward a few years from now? How we train for skills to mitigate risks from future competition, or skills that embrace change as an opportunity. Outside of the most commonly used metrics, I have a strong bias towards 3 key metrics to measure the impact of talent strategies. First is Employee Net Promoter Score, which is really a reflection of how employees put their discretionary effort and have pride in doing so. Second is the Quality of Hire, which evaluates if a new hire has the ability to raise the bar of the team. And 3 is Employee Voluntary Attrition.
Excellent. And I can share that we have found the 9-box to be extraordinarily effective as a tool. You're really looking at ability, aspiration, engagement, and potential. And so it's really been so helpful for our organization as well. Others, Kirsten, Liz, would you have anything that you feel like would be important to add here?
Yeah, I was just going to add, I think you hit on a good trend, which is really focusing on those skill gaps. So we're really focused on skill gaps, and then really those talent reviews and future focused, right? Not just doing performance reviews. I think Julie, Jagdish on both, right? It's the future potential and any gaps that you have and how we're developing our employees. So it's a huge trend and huge focus for us right now as well.
I'm going to piggyback on that a little bit. And we use the 9-blocks for our talent reviews as one piece, not the entire talent review. And I think to add to everything that my colleagues have said, I think it's also great to see if there's any blockers in your organization, right? Are there people that have been in a role for a long time who maybe are not in the Northwest, but more in the Southeast quadrant that you really need to start addressing to make way for the top talent? And really putting those plans in place for the people that are on the far right north corner of your quadrant to say, are we making sure we're very intentional? Because we all have budgets that we need to work with and limited resources, and saying, are we being doing the right thing with saying, here's our key talent in our future, and are we making investments in the right people?
Oh, for sure. Because that's where you want to be spending your time, right? When you look at your best and brightest and your box 1s, 2s, and 4s, like that's where you want to make, your biggest investments for sure. Excellent. Well, I'm sure we could all talk all day on talent management. So that's really, really, really helpful and validating to hear we're focusing on very similar things. So finally, my final question is really around stakeholder engagement and leadership influence. And so what I mean by that is, of course, stakeholder engagement is crucial for any strategic CPO. So anyone in our role really needs to understand how to manage their stakeholders and how to make sure we're bringing people along on that human capital journey, right? Kirsten, could you share an example where your ability to influence and engage stakeholders really led to substantial outcomes for your organization? And I'll go a step further and ask sort of what tactics or approaches that you have found to be the most effective in doing so.
Absolutely. So I'm going to give 2 examples, because I think it really, the the scenario plays out, what tactic you should use. So I don't think it's always one size fits all. And so I have a couple of examples from Confluence that while it's my function, HR, right? And so when we were talking about it, it's not always just me, it's a team effort. But like many private equity backed firms, we have grown significantly through acquisition. And when you grow through acquisition, I'm sure my colleagues, I already see them nodding their heads, is you wind up with a lot of policies. You have this multitude of policies, and every original company might have approached things differently. And so one of the things that we were looking at this year in particular in going through this is we had multiple policies around shift differentials and time off in lieu. And these are things, that affect the way people are paid. So of course, everyone is it's a very emotional topic to talk about. And so when we were trying to get to one policy per jurisdiction, because obviously local laws play into this, I felt very strongly about the fact that this wasn't going to be an HR decision. This was going to be a decision that involved others. So we got the key stakeholders of the groups that really had the biggest impact with these type of decisions, and we came up with a recommendation as a starting place, but we got everyone into a room and said, we need to talk about this. And we put forth our recommendation and then gathered all of the feedback from all of those stakeholders and went through a couple of iterations till we finally got to a point where we came up with a policy that really met all needs to the best that we could. You're never going to make everyone 100% happy, but really the benefit of that is when we got to a policy, we had already built the advocacy and the buy-in to this because we'd asked the opinion. So that was a great time that we did that. But that's not always the case, right? So sometimes you feel very strongly about something and you can't always get the opinions of everyone involved. So another example that I had to share was during our review process, I have always been a big fan of using calibration and introducing that into our review process, and did so at Confluence. And calibration is something that takes time. You're getting a bunch of leaders together in a room or virtually, as we are remote first as well, to talk about talent. And those conversations take time. So, I've never met a manager that's excited about review season and excited to add more to their plate during that time. So when I introduced this concept, it wasn't something that people were jumping up and down saying, yes, let's do that. So I thought the best way to influence the company was to bring an influencer along with me. So I actually asked one of our senior leaders who has a fairly large team and didn't seem to be very excited about this notion of calibration to do a pilot session. And I had my team facilitate the session. And after going through a few hours of talking about talent, they really began to see the benefits of not only knowing your talent better, but also creating consistency throughout the review process where you can say, yes, I feel good about this review score. And I feel like all of my leaders are being consistent on how they're measuring their talent. So once we got them through it, then I rolled it out to the larger population. And I had now an advocate to go alongside me, someone who had a lot of credibility in the company to espouse the benefits of calibration. So that was a really big win and something that I'm happy to say we're on year 2 of it. And people are on board, and I won't go as far as looking forward to it, but do believe that it is time very well spent and gives them a lot of insight into the talent, not just on one team, but across their entire departments.
I mean, what a change management best practice, right? And it looks like it worked out beautifully. So well done there. Thank you.
So far, so good.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing. Jagdish, Liz, anything that you feel like would be helpful to share here?
I just think I've also used really similar tactics and just feedback. I think feedback is so important, and getting stakeholders and doing pilots. I talked about pilots earlier. So feedback and listening and pilots and testing things out we're on year 3 of calibration. So similarly, I think year 2 was like, we actually got some feedback that was like, we had amazing conversations as a group that we wouldn't have had during just one-on-one review conversations. So I think it's so valuable and leads to that like strategy piece of those forward-focused conversations around talent. So I think it's great, and we're all doing it similarly. So it's great to see that trend.
Yeah, you both have nailed it actually. And that influencer is a huge, multiplier to getting to that outcomes. What I've heard also is it's really about understanding with empathy. And so, you have to practice a lot of active listening. And if you think about it, the word silent and the word listen are actually the same 6 letters. So if you're able to drive that forward, you're actually able to get a lot of influence through your stakeholders.
That's great. I will remember that. Wise words. Well, thank you to all 3 of you for joining us today. Some really rich insights shared here, and I so enjoyed the conversation. It's really clear that our role continues to evolve, and we are evolving with it. And our role is becoming more essential than ever to driving innovation and influence, leadership, and creating lasting value for our organizations. So I really hope today's discussion sparked new ideas and inspired our viewers to think about how strategic CPOs can continue to lead with purpose and impact. So thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much
for having us, Julie. Yeah, thanks for having us.
Sure.